Tonight on NEWSVISION, it's been 1 year since the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The deadliest high school shooting in American history, prompting an unprecedented movement for gun reform, turning pain into action.
I didn't want anybody else to have to go through that pain. I didn't want anybody else to have to hear the suffering that my sister went through that day.
And tributes pouring in today from across the country and around the world.
I ask the members of the House of Representatives to use this time to center their thoughts on the 17 who were killed.
Tonight, a look back at what has changed since the shooting in a one-on-one interview with one Parkland parent.
It's about your safety, it's about my safety, your family's safety. You all deserve to be safe.
How the victims are being remembered.
One of the nicest ways to find healing in your heart is to help somebody else heal.
And what the University of Miami is doing to prevent a similar attack on its campus.
So our dispatchers, as soon as they hear a call go out of shots fired or of man with a gun, they push a button, and that button activates a multitude of notifications.
A special edition of NEWSVISION starts right now.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this special edition of NEWSVISION. I'm Madison Brown.
And I'm Brianna Ross. Today is February 14th, Valentine's Day. While many people are celebrating by giving flowers to loved ones, 17 families here in South Florida will be laying flowers on the graves of their loved ones.
They were killed 1 year ago at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, and events are being held across South Florida today to mark the day and remember the lives lost.
We have special coverage of the massacre at MSD 1 year later, beginning with UMTV's Erica Orstad. She joins us now live with a look at those events. Erica, we understand people are attending unique memorials in Coral Springs tonight.
Well, good evening, Brianna and Madison. I am live in Coral Springs, where the Parkland community is remembering the tragic events that happened here 1 year ago today. But not only that, they're rewriting what they'll remember about February 14th with a lot of different events that happened around the community today. Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School had a day for peace. Instead of going to class, students were able to plant flowers in their campus garden, also pack lunches for a food bank, and serve breakfast for first responders. Other events around the community: a day of love at the Coral Springs Museum of Art, also a community commemoration at Pine Trails Park, and this structure behind me opened this morning, and it's been a big deal here in Coral Springs. There are still people here now, actually, but I was here yesterday to find out more about the structure and how it'll bring broken hearts together. On a day about love, a city comes together.
When it does hit your hometown, there's just a sense of unity.
With hammers and nails, saws and plywood. To say it's a labor of love would be an understatement.
I think this place is just beautiful.
It's the Temple of Time, built in 2 weeks by this guy, David Best, his crew, and volunteers from across the city of Coral Springs.
There's a lot of swerving in there.
1,000 people?
Too many to count.
God, I'm tired.
A lot of people joined by a broken heart.
This is a tough day. This community's barely had a year to grieve.
It's not a religious temple, not a shrine for a god, but rather for tears.
It's just hard to describe the raw emotion.
That first year is the hardest year.
17 lives taken 1 year ago today.
You have to reinvent your birthdays and your Christmases.
Dave Washer builds for his daughter, who he lost 11 years ago.
One of the nicest ways to find healing in your heart is to help somebody else heal.
And the temple offers that, a place to bring sadness and support like these first responders. A place to bring pain and let go.
If you take that and put it in here, I'll burn it for you and it won't come back.
And it will burn. The temple will actually be set on fire at a later date.
You light a fire and everybody sits around the fire and gets warm. It's not to say that the murder of a child is going to disappear, but that thing that's keeping you from sleeping at night can disappear.
But for now, it's a refuge.
I think there's going to be a huge crowd here. This is going to be the perfect place for people to grieve.
A shoulder to cry on.
There'll be that one person that needed it, and then you know that that's who you built it for.
What it means to be united, and love truly is an understatement. Now you're looking at scenes from inside the temple. It opened this morning at about 7 o'clock. People are able to come inside, write messages right on the temple itself. They're also leaving flowers and pictures, other memorandums, anything they want to bring inside the temple. Now I was able to go inside myself. It was a very quiet and respectful atmosphere, a lot different than the noise of the construction from the 2 weeks leading up to the opening of the temple. But it was very quiet. Definitely people are reflecting on their neighbors, peers, family members, and friends that they lost 1 year ago. Now the date for the burning has not been set in stone. It has been said that March 17th is a date that people are talking about, but this is not official. We will definitely keep you updated on when this will happen. As for now, the temple is here on Sample Road. If you have the chance, I definitely recommend that you come and check it out because it will not be here forever. For now, reporting live in Coral Springs, I'm Erica Orstad, UMTV.
Thank you, Erica. Donald Trump reflected on the Parkland shooting in a speech to Washington, D.C. law enforcement yesterday. He expressed his sorrow for the families of the victims and said his administration is working to improve school safety.
We pledge our unwavering resolve to work with the leaders in this room to secure our nation's schools and everywhere else.
The president also detailed 2 separate acts that might give grants to schools and law enforcement to improve safety. He also said that the newly formed School Safety Commission would continue to make strides.
We could soon see more teachers carrying guns in classrooms. Earlier this week, the Florida Senate Education Committee approved a bill expanding one put in place after last year's shooting in Parkland. Right now, only teachers who have roles outside the classroom, such as coaches, for example, are eligible to carry in the classroom. But some survivors of the massacre at MSD say they disagree with this expansion.
I for sure don't think arming teachers is a good idea. I think overall, we have to work to make sure that we're stopping shooters before they get on campus, because by the time they get there, it's already too late, because we know that somebody else is going to be lost through that process.
Hogg also says all Americans need to work together for safety, regardless of their political affiliation.
Stoneman Douglas students like David Hogg and parents of those killed started a massive movement after the shooting.
UMTV's Rebecca Chung spoke to one of those parents. She takes a look back at what has happened since the massacre at MSD.
Oh my God!
February 14th, 2018. A day of love for most people in the U.S. ended in terror for students and teachers at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School.
He unlocked the door, I ran in, and then I thought he was behind me, but he wasn't. When the SWAT team came to get us, they had to move the body, which made it even harder, because that's when you know, like, they're gone.
Now, 1 year later, a tragic day in Parkland has become the foundation of a national movement for social justice.
It's about your safety, it's about my safety, your family's safety. You all deserve to be safe.
From marches held across America to organizations fighting for gun reform.
Because the price that I paid of losing my son is not even close to how you feel today.
In the past year, we have witnessed the rise of the next generation, ready to take a stand.
We now have an epidemic. 40,000 people per year die from gun violence. In the time that we do this interview, somebody will be planning a funeral for a victim of gun violence. Our role is to do something about that.
Fred Guttenberg lost his daughter Jamie in the shooting. Since that day, he's made it his goal to combat gun violence through his organization Orange Ribbons for Jamie, a program he believes will have a long-lasting impact.
Long term, I expect this issue to be a dominant issue in the next election. So next year, I see myself advocating for common sense policies around gun safety. This year, it's to make sure those legislators that we brought in take that role seriously, because if not, we'll send them home as well.
But the road to change has not been an easy one. For parents and students who survived the shooting, February 14th has become a day of mourning. Guttenberg says he misses his daughter more every day and has found a new way to cope with his loss.
Having experienced what you've experienced and knowing what you know now, what can you say to parents that have experienced what you've gone through?
I always tell the story It was back in March. My daughter did this thing with my phone. She put in my calendar on random days throughout the year, this thing called Love Jamie Day. A few weeks after she was killed, I was in DC, and Love Jamie Day popped up. You talk about grief, you know, I almost couldn't get through my day. There are days where you're gonna feel like you're okay, and there are gonna be days where you feel like you just can't get going. The advice I would give to people is to understand that and to get help with it. Don't try to do it yourself.
Rebecca Chung, UMTV.
The trauma caused by a life-threatening situation can affect someone for years to come, but there are ways to help people cope with it. Many survivors of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. As one UHealth psychiatrist explains, the most important thing patients need is a strong support system.
Use your family and friends to know, hey, look, this might be a really hard time, so that we need to maybe reach out and make sure that they're doing okay, make sure that they're going to school, make sure that if they are having a harder time, that they need to go maybe back to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, because it's not something that you never know how it's going to hit you, how it's going to affect you.
Dr. Maldives also says being in the age of social media has its pros and cons, but ultimately if it becomes too much, she says there is always a power switch to turn it off.
Dozens of alumni of Stoneman Douglas High School attend the University of Miami. And today, some of them, along with other members of the UM community, honored the 17 people killed with a memorial here on campus. UMTV's Anya Reese went to one event at Eaton Residential College.
Thank you. I'm here at Eaton Residential College in front of the only memorial on campus honoring those lost in the Parkland shooting 1 year ago today. Created by the Eaton College Residential Council, the banner has been signed by over 100 students, some leaving heartfelt prayers and others pushing for change. One student, Jessica Diaz, wrote, "We will never forget. We will create change. MSD strong." Reporting for UMTV, I'm Anya Reese.
Thank you, Anya. University of Miami students are also working on a new exhibit to raise awareness about gun violence in America. It's called The Tunnel of Mass Shootings. Each room in the exhibit will focus on a different mass shooting, honoring the victims.
So this idea came together about a year ago after everything happened in Parkland, and the Douglas alumni at the University of Miami wanted to find a way to spread awareness about mass shootings. We really just want people to walk out of this being like, wow, this is not okay and we need to make a change.
Potential guest speakers include Manuel Oliver, who lost his son Joaquin in Parkland a year ago. The exhibit will be held in the Student Activity Center on April 22nd.
Last year's shooting reignited concerns about safety on all school and college campuses, including ours. I spoke to UMPD Chief David Rivero and the Director of Emergency Management, Matt Spinner, about what they are doing to keep students safe.
The biggest thing that we've learned from Parkland is that the officers need to get through the doors as quickly as possible. They need to confront the offender as quickly as possible, because then they can change their attention to saving lives. And they could have saved so many lives in Parkland had the officers gone through the door as quickly as possible. So one of the biggest things that we applied here at the university is that we needed to have a way for officers to apply tourniquets. And it's an easy tool to save a life.
Chief Rivero also says that UMPD officers all carry multiple tourniquets and are equipped with the same resources as SWAT team officers. The department also works closely with UM's Office of Emergency Management on how UM would respond to an active shooter, and they have taken new steps since the MSD massacre.
Since Parkland, we've done really a multitude of things, but it's been part of our ongoing program that's been in place since well before the incident. In March after the incident, we held a full-scale active shooter exercise on the Coral Gables campus, which was followed by an Emergency Operations Center functional exercise.
In addition to the drills, UM Emergency Management also offers regular active shooter response training sessions open to all students and employees. UM also has an assessment team that meets every Monday to discuss possible threats to the university community and how to handle them.
The MSD students turned their anger into action shortly after the shooting by becoming founders of the March for Our Lives movement. The movement's leaders have traveled around the world to spread their message on gun control, but their new focus is bringing their movement to college campuses right here at home. I followed one class here at the University of Miami that has helped them do just that. Every year, Professor Heidi Carr looks for a company for her public relations campaigns class to work with, but she wanted this year's project to inspire students.
When I reached out to March for Our Lives and I heard back, in a couple of days, and they said, this sounds interesting, give us a call, I was over the moon. Like, these kids are going to be so into it, they're going to be so excited. It's something they really care about themselves, and also it's going to help the organization so much.
Professor Carr's class is not like any other class. Her students are actually acting as a PR agency, creating a campaign to help further the March for Our Lives movement.
You've spent your entire college career learning about PR, studying PR, writing PR, and you finally get to apply it to a real campaign with real clients, and it makes a real impact.
It's mainly us doing it. It's not like teacher involvement.
The class has been divided into a design team, a research team, a writing team, and a big events team, each with their own role in the campaign process. Throughout the semester, students have made promotional materials and formed a plan for March for Our Lives to tour colleges around the country. Their biggest idea is to have celebrities perform the song Shine, written by Parkland students. Each student contributed $50 to the campaign, but they say the experience they have received working with the Parkland students has been priceless.
I think I was like everybody, where you hear about what happened, you feel for them, you cry, you get frustrated, but when you actually sit in a room and work with them and you realize that you have the opportunity to really create change and make an impact, it's something very special and something I didn't realize that I'd become so motivated to.
All of their hard work has led up to their final presentation, where they shared their campaign with the UM community and the March for Our Lives student leaders.
The March for Our Lives student leaders will be able to lead a conversation about change.
March for Our Lives co-founder Bradley Thornton says he was impressed by the presentation.
They just blew me away with the amount of research and information that they actually put forth and effort that they did all the way from the beginning.
The students hope that their ideas will make a difference and help March for Our Lives reach their short-term goal.
March for Our Lives needs to get a certain amount of signatures on the petition. They are about 40,000 short of that, and it's very simple. If they get the signatures within the next few months on the petition, then we've accomplished the goal.
But the movement's goal is even bigger than signatures on a petition. March for Our Lives co-founder Lauren Hogg says the organization's main goal is to no longer be needed.
The ultimate goal of March for Our Lives is not to have to exist. And I know that sounds kind of weird to some people, but if what we do works, we shouldn't have to be here.
And right now, the March for Our Lives leaders are pushing Congress to pass H.R. 8, a law that would mandate universal background checks. If you want to show your support for the law and for more of the March for Our Lives initiatives, visit www.marchforourlives.com.
It's incredible to see such strong leadership from such young people affected by a tragedy like that.
I was amazed by the way that they just turned their grief into action so quickly. They mobilized within days after the shooting. So it's really amazing to see.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
We'll return to Parkland in just a little bit, but first we'll take a turn and look at some of the wild weather we are experiencing on campus this week.
Plus, student government debates were held last night. We'll take a look at what each ticket is promising this year. Stay with us. This special edition of NEWSVISION will be right back.